Hey everybody, it is Deanna with the Sassy Girl Entrepreneur Show, and I have my friend Dariana Lozana with me today. Hey girl!
Oh, hey, I missed you. How are you?
I know, I missed you too. We normally are doing this so much more often, and
Yeah,
2020 was just chaotic.
yeah, to
So,
say the least. I know we will probably get back to doing more of this, or I know both
yes,
of us have kind of shifted a little bit, so that's exciting. I think a lot of people are going through a little bit of a change for this
I
new
think
year.
so. You know what? I did a lot of soul searching in
Yes,
2020, a lot of
same.
soul searching, and it was good, like
Yeah.
in that aspect.
Oh, for sure. I think things got clearer for me as well as like what I really enjoy doing, how I like to help people, what I want my business to actually look like and reflect. And so all those things are getting implemented now. It feels good. So I'm sure that we will get back to how we were before, but it's
Yes,
okay. I know everyone's working on their improvement, so that's good.
that's right. That's right. So just to fill you in, if this is the first time that you are meeting Dariana, Dariana and I met at a digital marketing conference and instantly hit it off, became BFFs. I know she's also in digital marketing. She also helps entrepreneurs and businesses grow their business. And I mean, we've leaned on each other when we've needed it, as far as like, hey, let me toss this
Yeah.
idea off you, and vice versa. So I appreciate your friendship.
Oh, I appreciate yours too. We did instantly click. It was
Yeah,
like
we
we were
did.
inseparable from the moment we like introduced ourselves to each other. So that was very refreshing as well. Because you know how it's hard to like make friends when you're
Yes.
older. Like when you're a teenager or a kid, it's like, oh, you like to play these games? Me too. But when you're an adult, it's like, oh, I have friends.
Right. It is totally different. And even though we are like so far apart, I'm in Florida, you're in New York City,
Yeah.
and it's this whole virtual world is pretty cool that we can still talk and
Yeah.
stay in touch. So
For sure. If you,
very-
yeah, and if you're an entrepreneur, find yourself entrepreneur friends. No offense to the friends you have now, but it's a completely different. No, it's a completely different support system, and
I
you've been that
agree.
for me, so I appreciate that.
I definitely agree, and thank you. But I brought Dariana on today so we could talk about the truth about some digital marketing myths, right? Because, like I said, both of us are in the digital marketing world and have several clients, have helped several people, and there's some myths that keep coming up over and over again. And I know we've talked about it. We're like,
Right.
oh, like I wish like everybody just knew like that's not true. Like what you're hearing is not true because it does work, or no, it doesn't work, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we're gonna like just smash them today. Like we are going to like that one
Don't ask
show.
us about these again after this.
Yeah, and if you do, we're gonna direct you to this video.
Right.
So the very first one I'm going to ask you about. Now I've got some myths that I have prepared, and I'm going to throw them at you, Dariana, and just get your input, right, on what you think
Yeah.
about it. So
I'm
I'm like
ready.
saying I'm throwing you under the bus right now. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So the very first myth, right, is that your ad should appeal to a lot of people. Now, let me explain. When I'm working with maybe a new client or just somebody who's doing ads on their own, and I'm telling them, like, focus on your niche. Who are you talking to? This look of panic goes on their face. So, should you appeal to a lot of people or not? What?
I'm all for niching down. I think that there is a resistance to niching down because people feel like they are excluding or leaving money on the table.
Mhm.
Because, I feel like with TV advertising or something like that, it kind of makes sense to try to reach as many people as possible, right? And then you'll cast this big net and you're probably going to get more. But in reality, it's actually kind of the opposite. And, I understand the look of panic that you get, but I agree
You
with
get it
you.
too?
Yes, but I agree with you that being really specific helps in the long run because you can build your rapport with a small amount of people. You can talk to them more directly and kind of get in their heads, and you're really good at that.
Oh,
Like reflect, they can be like, oh, like they really know what we're talking about. Like, I don't know, an example that I have is if you're targeting people who ride horses, there's probably things that that community knows, understands, goes through that only they go through. I wouldn't know about that. So
Right.
why would you want to reach me? So I think that's a better way to look at it, is just niche down, concentrate on that. You're not going to exclude anyone. You actually are probably going to make more money, and use your budget more efficiently than if you try to go after everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell people, when you try to, and I agree 100% with what you said, right? When you're running a TV ad or a radio ad, or you're putting something in print, right? The idea is like you're going to hit a ton of people. And with digital marketing, first off, all of those traditional forms of marketing, they don't have a way to niche down.
There's no way to track it.
So there's no way to do that, right? But with digital marketing, you are able to. And when you send it to a bunch of people, your message gets watered down because it's not landing on the right ears.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great point to make. I didn't touch upon that, but that's true. It does get watered down, or you have to be too general. And then how do you convey that your people need this? Or, when you're just trying to say, my product is great, everybody buy it. Like that falls on deaf ears. I don't think people absorb that.
Right. I had a coffee shop that I was working with. And when I said, who's your target? They're like, well, everybody, because everybody drinks coffee. I'm like, but the coffee shop goer is really a unique person.
Yeah. And it varies per coffee shop, right?
Yeah. And they're like, well, I guess. I'm like, no, talk to me. Like, who are the people that walk in the coffee shop, right? It's not everybody. There's the guys that hang out at McDonald's and get their coffee and sit there all day. You've got the people that go to Panera and use it as their office. And, there's this different vibe, and they're all different.
Yeah. The guy that just goes to McDonald's or goes to like a bodega or a deli to get their coffee, they probably don't care that much about, like, is it oat milk and like what kind of, where are the origins? They don't care about that stuff. So then why are you going to waste your time? They're not going to pay what you want. They're not going to care about your, they're going to scoff, and you've wasted your budget on someone that doesn't matter.
Right. So if you are someone who thinks that when you are running an ad, that it has to reach all these people because your target is everyone, we just totally debunked it.
Yeah.
We're smashing that. That's not true. You want to niche down.
So again, think about who is walking in your door. Like Deanna said, think about who's already buying from you and what all those people might have in common. And that will help you kind of narrow down who you're, if you have no idea where to start, that's a good start.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Myth number 2.
I'm excited.
I feel like on a game show or something. Myth number 2, email is dead. Nobody opens my email. Nobody sees my email. Why do I want to send emails out or build my email database? Because email's dead. Nobody pays attention to it. Dariana, what do you say?
No, this is not true. And I love that you're bringing this one up, because I'm going through kind of like a flushing process in my email list as well. Email's not dead. I think you should still continue to build your email list, because as you can see, it's happened several times. The internet goes down. What are you going to do? If Facebook isn't working, or, Instagram has an issue, or Twitter's down, how are you going to reach people? Your email list. Plus, it's a more direct way to reach your audience than social media, where there's an algorithm and they don't see something till like 2 days later. It doesn't reach their feed right away. So I always suggest people build up their email list. I have met resistance about that as well. It's not too difficult to do. It's not. So I think everyone should work on that. It's just, it's a more personal way to reach people. I know, Deanna, you've been doing text messages as well, which I think is really cool. But these methods of reaching people more directly, I think, are still valid. People do if you're having issues with people opening your emails, that's on you. And you have to clean house, like what I'm doing right now. And that can be as simple as like, do you want to stay on my list or not?
Right. You
You
know,
haven't opened the
I
last
want
5
to
emails.
comment on that though. Something to keep in mind, right, is if you are cleaning house, right, and maybe somebody who was part of your email list, maybe they're just not interested anymore. They're still your ideal client, but maybe they moved from the area, or maybe something changed within them, right? Maybe something totally changed where it's not your ideal client. Don't delete that. Download that email list, right? Because we're going to talk about that a little. You can use it for your you can use it for your ads and targeting them. And I guess we kind of talked about it, right? Like your ads should appeal to a lot of people, niche down, target, right? You can target them and you can create a lookalike audience, which is something that you can do in Facebook and create this lookalike audience, which is a group of people that look very similar to that particular list or database or whatever it is you're focusing on. And you can reach people that are similar to your audience, right? So don't delete it. Don't trash it. Still don't send them emails, if you're cleaning up or if they've unsubscribed, right? But hang on to that list because you can use it in another way.
Right. That's such a good point to bring up. And I am not deleting them. I'm just saying, if you don't want to receive my emails, then unsubscribe, and don't feel bad about that. It's the same thing as niching down. I'm niching. If you're not interested in what I'm offering, if you're not interested in my information, then I'd rather increase my chances of reaching the people that are reading my emails, or at least, getting my open rates up. Because if you have trash, right, garbage in, garbage out. So I don't want that. I want to make sure that my emails are actually reaching people, that I know that I can test my subject lines and it'll be accurate as to what people are opening and what people are not, and not just because I have just everyone under the sun in my email list. So I don't think email is dead.
Right. And there was a while I would get really hurt if somebody unsubscribed.
I went through that too.
Oh my God. I was like, but why? Like, you're unsubscribing? And now
and you take that personally, and then you reflect that onto yourself. And if your content's good enough and blah blah blah, that might have nothing to do with it. So I think that's another mindset thing that people need to work on. Don't be afraid to say goodbye. Whatever leaves you makes room for better. I don't know, say something like that to yourself. But I think we all go through that for sure.
I think so too. And, something I want to add about email is that, don't expect 100% open rate. If you're in 30, and every industry is different, but 30% is a good rule of thumb. If you have a 30% open rate, that's great. Now, somebody might be saying, okay, so, 70% aren't opening my email. So why bother?
Right. And then but you can also you can resend your email to the people that didn't open. You can use the same subject line, or you can change it and try something else with those people that didn't open. So you can still kind of nudge more opens after that initial send. But it's not dead. Keep using it. And even though you're not reaching 100, no one reaches 100%. Like you said, no one. So have realistic expectations as well. Like you'd never reach 100% of the people that you reach out to in almost anything. Like, it's not happening on social media. It's not happening in your email.
Yep. But you know what? The thing that's a little bit different with email as opposed to social media is that on social media, with the algorithm, right? 100% of your followers are not seeing it at all.
Right.
And so they're not even noticed. They don't have any idea that it's there. With email, at least, they might hit delete, but they are seeing your business name at least, right? And they won't have to open it, but they're seeing it over and over and over again, right? And it's how many touches before somebody decides they actually need your product or your service.
Yeah, for sure.
It's still working even if they don't open it.
Right, exactly. So keep pushing with email. Sometimes it takes tweaking, but you can get there.
Absolutely. So email is not dead. The next one, retargeting is creepy.
Well, I feel like that deserves an evil laugh because it is creepy. It's totally, but it's great. It's perfect. It's creepy for them, not as much for you. You should be happy about it as an advertiser, because like Deanna said, you can take people who unsubscribed and maybe, reactivate them in a way. Maybe they didn't want to receive your emails but are still interested in your program, so you can, you know, put them through an ad funnel. Or, you know, like you mentioned, the lookalike audience, amazing, right? So you can use that list you have, and then Facebook does this creepy thing and finds people that like the same things that these people like, and like matches it up and says, well, these are the people that are most like your audience, and they'll probably like your product too. And it's really creepy. You can dive into how much income people make. Have they traveled in a certain area in the past 6 months? Did they just get engaged? Are they, you know, do they have children? Do they have a college degree? You can get so specific. So yes, it's creepy, but good.
Yeah, I would agree. As a consumer, it's creepy.
Right.
You know, I mean, you click on an ad and then all of a sudden you see that company's ad following you everywhere, right? You're like, are they watching me? Like, this is so creepy.
Right.
From a business owner standpoint, it's awesome. You're focusing in on your ideal client. So you're not wasting money.
Yes, they're warm.
Guy, targeting the person that just went to the coffee shop, you know, 2 doors down.
Yeah.
You know?
No, absolutely. And you can target competitors and such. And it's a warm audience, so you know they're already interested to some degree in either other products that are related to yours, or the topic that you cover, or they've visited your website. So that means they're already familiar with you. They're already clicking around your website. That means that there was some interest there or some curiosity. So it's not like, hey, look at me. Do you want like social media stuff? It's like, no, they've already read an article. So they know, they're somewhat familiar with me. So I can say, hey, you saw this, you know, you read this article. Do you want to download this checklist? And then I can lead them down a funnel that way.
Right. So retargeting is not creepy.
Not on our end.
Myth debunked. Okay, this one. Now, I know you've heard this one because we've had conversations about it before. So, once I have a website, business will explode.
Yes, I hear this a lot. I'm sure, I know you deal a little bit more with websites than I do, but yes, we hear this all the time. If I build it, it will come. And that's not always true, because you need to drive traffic to that website, or else it's just sitting there. So there's lots of tactics that go into attracting people to your site and getting them to find you.
So why won't they? I mean, if I build a website, I'm going to play devil's advocate, right, Deanna? So I built a website. I just spent thousands of dollars building the perfect website that people will come to, and they're going to instantly buy my product as soon as they see it. You know, so if you're telling me business isn't going to explode, then you know, I mean, why won't it explode? My website's perfect.
The website's perfect. I know. Well, there's so many elements, right? There's like the copy, and is it actually perfect? Is it easy to use? I know some people, I worked with a client who wasn't really getting sales, and I was like, well, let's see your website. And it looked very old and it was clunky and hard to use. So they thought it was fine. But from a user standpoint, once I went through it and I asked, did you like go through your own website just to see how you would navigate it? Like, take yourself out of your shoes and I've never seen this website before. Also, like you mentioned before, people need several touch points before they actually buy. So unless someone's like Googling for your specific product because they need it right now, if they just land on your website randomly, they're probably not going to purchase right away, because they don't know that they need what you have. Unless your website's copy is like incredible and can get them to click on that button, even if they don't need it right away, then that's a little bit different, but that's hard.
Yeah, right. So how, if I want my business to explode, should I even, and websites aren't going to do it, should I even have a website?
I think you should, but I've seen people that do really well without a website.
Really? I'm shocked you said that.
Yeah, my friend is a
social media.
Yeah, so I have a friend, the example that pops into my head, because I was kind of shocked as well. My friend's a love coach, and she built her business basically just like with her Facebook page, and not like a business page either. It started with her personal network. and she just started posting about, this new journey she was going on, and she was going to host coaching for women who wanted to find relationships. And that's how her business started. And she didn't have a website for a while. It was just, kind of word of mouth, but like on the internet.
Yeah.
And she didn't need one. And then eventually she did have one, obviously, because she needed to host the materials where people could go. But at first she was just basically emailing the course, like a drip email kind of thing, like a voice recording. It wasn't, there was no written materials. It wasn't like that. So you can find success. I mean, if you can scrap stuff together. I do think you should have a website because you need to get found.
You for saying that.
No, for sure. I think that there are exceptions to the rule, right? But I do think it's important to have a website because, again, you want to be capturing those emails. You want to have somewhere where if someone asks you what you do, you can direct them to a website. You want their, people don't have offices as much anymore. Like entrepreneurs, like I work from home, you work from home. Where are you going to direct people to go? Your website is like your storefront in a sense. So I think you do need a website, but I don't, just because you hit publish doesn't mean that you're going to get drones of people coming in, because ranking can be difficult as well.
Yes. And ranking takes time.
Yes.
Even if your website is optimized for the search engines and your designer did all the right things, and it's ongoing, it's not a one and done process, it's ongoing. Yeah. But even if they did, it takes a while to get ranked. I mean, everybody wants that #1 spot on Google. And unless you're paying for it, you have to be patient, and just keep doing the right stuff and add content, that's the reason why most people blog, right? Because it helps.
That's what I started blogging. That's why I started blogging, and I realized that it's a lot of work, and it's not always a simple, funnel, especially if you don't have a huge budget. But the organic stuff does work. You just have to be very strategic and intentional with everything that you put on your website. And like you said, it is an ongoing process. So, I learned about going back to old articles and like updating them and how that helps. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. So this next one ties into that.
Yeah.
Once I post on social media, business will explode, right? Hey, Ariana, I'm going to hire you to post content on my page. And I expect to have my calendar full with appointments at the end of the month. Are we good?
Maybe. I don't know yet. Yes, this is such a good one because I deal with this all the time. This is, and this is another one where like it can go either way. Because if your messaging is right and you have all the other correct elements, the right hashtags, and your content is good and not just like random content, high quality stuff, then you can kind of see quick results. I went through a transition last year. I hired a coach myself to help me with messaging. And once I switched my messaging, I did see things come in quickly. But again, that was a process. I had to go through figuring that out. So just because you posted yesterday on social media doesn't mean that people are going to run through the door to buy your coffee, right? It has to kind of build up. And that, going viral, that's not like a thing that there's no formula. You either do or you don't.
I've had people say, oh, can you make me go viral?
Yes.
I don't know. It's something really stupid for me. Like, I don't know.
Run naked down the street or something. I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, and there are tactics, right? So we can try. Whether or not you're gonna get that, it's I don't know. Also, listen to the person that you hired, unless they're a complete fool and nothing's working. But if you hire someone to do a job for you, and this is in general, but I've also had clients who I'm like, this is what we need to do, and then they push back, and then we don't get the results we want.
Oh yes.
But you didn't listen to what I said, so and that's frustrating for both people, and that's something I'd like to avoid. But I just needed to bring that up here because just because you want to say something doesn't mean that it'll actually translate to what's going to attract customers. So if you just post on social media randomly, I don't think anything's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. There are lots of tactics that go in. Social media changes all the time. And now you have to be more proactive about like going out and engaging, and it's a little bit more complicated than it was a few years ago when we didn't have as many people.
It's a lot more. And now, I mean, it really is. And now with the battle, I mean, Zuckerberg and Apple have always fought. But now that Apple is putting more restrictions, where we should have talked about this with the retargeting, right? Where if you have an Apple device, your information is protected, and Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms, right, able to access that. And so now it's like this, even running ads is going to be more challenging.
It is. It's starting, and we're already seeing things switch a little bit. You know, and we even had a little bit of that with like the election going on, and hashtags being turned off in the US until the elections were done. And so, you know, these things are going to happen. Things change. So just listen to the person. Hopefully the person that you hired is experienced and can guide you in the right way. But listen to them.
All right. The last one. Digital marketing is only successful with a big budget. So what I hear a lot of times is that, and this isn't necessarily even running ads. Usually I hear it when it comes to ads, right? That you need a really big budget in order to be successful. Or it's really like social media. If you really want your business to grow, you know, it's better if you're like a big company rather than a mom and pop type of business. So is that true?
So this is an interesting one, because obviously the bigger the budget, the faster you get results, right? So I've worked with companies where I had like tens of thousands of dollars to like put behind one post, which sounds insane to some people. And I had someone work with me and they were like, really? And I'm like, yes, when you work with multi-million-dollar companies, they just have the budgets to put 50,000, you know, 20 to 50,000 behind one post, which sounds insane to people that don't have that budget, but I don't think it's necessary. You can run a $50 ad, or, you know, do a couple dollars a day. But again, you have to be strategic, right? So think about that funnel. You know, what happens after you've run your budget, or what is your objective? Do you just want to build up your brand awareness? It's very important to be specific about what you're doing with your budget, especially when you have a smaller budget to work with. But I can say that I've recreated the click-through cost for, you know, with a bigger budget and a smaller budget. So that's down to like a few cents a click. It's a little bit easier. Obviously, when you have a big budget, they favor that. So things happen a little faster, but we've been able to reach, through more of a process, we've been able to reach those levels with small budgets. And I'm talking like 50 to $100.
Right. Yeah. So if you are a small business, you've got a small budget, don't be discouraged. It might take a little bit more time. I mean, clearly a bigger budget, like Dariana said, if you've got a huge budget, like, you're going to get more, right? But it doesn't mean that the small business guy or woman can't, talking to women here, but you know, can't reach as many people, can't grow their business. You know, it just takes a little bit more strategy, like Dariana said, and some patience.
Patience. That's the key word there. And ads are a process. The first time you run ads, and I guess this is another myth, bonus one for you, but sometimes the first time you run ads, you're probably not going to get the results you want. And that's just how it is, because you've never run it before. So you have no benchmark. And this is something that I've dealt with in big companies and small companies. It's okay. If I spend $500, what am I going to get? You've not run ads before, so I don't know.
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because that one, this is a good one. Keep going.
Because I've had this, you know, happen at, you know, I've worked both corporate, you know, B2B and B2C, and with small businesses, big businesses. And I get asked, you know, if we spend $100, I don't know, I can give you a roundabout of like what impressions we might get at a budget based on industry averages. But even within the same niches, different businesses will have different benchmarks, and it all depends on like again, your objectives. Are you paying for per click, or do you just want impressions? Like if you're just going for brand awareness, you'd go for impressions. If you're going for sales, and I'd suggest clicks, and it all shifts. So it's really hard. So, you have to spend some time and money on testing. And I think people get frustrated at that point.
Right.
They're like, well, it isn't working. I'm spending all this money. But we have to, because we have to figure it out. So even if you have just $100, maybe you spend the first $50 testing, and then the next $50 invested back into what worked, and then tweak from there. So that's another thing, is like, just because you run an ad doesn't mean, and I've had clients be like, well, my friend is running ads and they make X amount of money. I'm like, yeah, but how long have they been doing it?
Right. They've learned their target. They've learned what their audience engages with and what they don't engage with.
Right.
And yeah, it is a lot of testing. I think the last campaign that I did, one ad, I created 8 different ads out of it. I did 4 at first, which is typical. I typically do 4. And then I'm like, okay, that's working. That's not. Let me try this and test this against one. And then, you learn, okay, that worked there and not here. Let me try now and do this. And
like they like the picture of me holding the coffee cup, but that didn't work with this line. Yes. So how do we change that? It's a lot. It's a lot of testing. If you're doing it on your own, just don't get, like Deanna said, don't get discouraged. It's a process. And just because you run it one time, and also don't just hit the boost button, because that's
thank you for saying
that. Just gonna waste your money.
Try
to target it. It's a lot to learn, but there's YouTube videos. You can hire someone to do it for you, or take a low-cost course. There are a ton of them out there.
Definitely. Dariana, thank you so much for coming on. This is a great conversation. This was good stuff.
That's our chest.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with Dariana, I have both of her email addresses right there. She's at blockandab.com and Darilo. I've never asked if that's how you say it, right?
Yeah, you did it right.
Last name combined. I absolutely love it.
It don't tend to be like that great at names, so I was like, I'm just gonna take your first and last name and smush it together, and that's what it is. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Darilo, thank you. Darilo.com is my blog, and blockandab.com is my agency website, and that's where you can find like case studies. Darilo.com is more like if you want social media tips or my courses, you can go on there.
Perfect. Well, Dariana, thank you again for coming on, and we have to do this again soon.
It's so fun every time we get together and do this.
It is.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, I will see everybody later.
Bye.